Modern Queen Tales presents The Ghostwriter's Revenge. Part 1. The Architect of the Illusion. The heavy oak door of the conference room sealed shut with a soft, final click. I stared at the Mont Blanc pen resting on the mahogany table. The silver barrel gleamed under the recessed lighting. The ink inside the cartridge held the power to erase my existence. Across the polished wood, Byron Rowles smiled. His teeth flashed, perfectly veneered, white and predatory. "Sign the paper, Sabrina," Byron said. His voice carried a manufactured rasp. His vocal coach charged $2,000 an hour to perfect that specific, gravelly inflection. I picked up the pen. The metal felt cold against my skin. The contract in front of me outlined the sale of my soul. 50 pages of dense, 10-point legal jargon sat in a neat stack. Sapphire Records offered me $2 million. The single, unyielding condition demanded absolute silence. I relinquished all writing credits, all publishing rights, and all public acknowledgement for the 12 tracks comprising the album Aurora Visage. Byron Rowles would take sole, undisputed credit as the lone visionary. I pressed the nib to the signature line. The black ink stained the thick, cream-colored parchment. The friction of the pen scratching across the paper sounded deafening in the quiet room. I completed the final loop of my name. The 3 Sapphire Records executives sitting adjacent to Byron exhaled simultaneously. They slid the $2 million cashier's check across the table. I picked up the rectangular slip of paper. I became a ghost. My mother's hospital bills sat in a shoebox under my bed back in Riverside. The crushing weight of her medical debt dictated my hand. The $2 million cleared the liens on our foreclosed home and paid the oncologists. The money bought her comfort during her final months. I traded my identity for her peace. For 5 years, I lived inside the mental prison erected by that signature. The trauma of the erasure began 3 months after the signing. On a Tuesday morning in late October, I stood in the checkout line at a crowded grocery store in Silver Lake. The overhead speakers crackled. The crisp, familiar opening chords of House of Embers drifted through the fluorescent-lit aisles. That song held my bleeding heart. I wrote the melody on the floor of my childhood bedroom. The bank foreclosed on the house 3 days prior to that writing session. Every lyric detailed the brutal physical sensation of watching my family's legacy dismantled by faceless creditors. I poured my raw grief into the bridge, documenting the sharp smell of brown packing tape and the hollow, terrifying echo of my footsteps in the emptied rooms. Byron sang the lyrics with the emotional depth of a plastic mannequin. The producers at Sapphire layered his thin voice with heavy digital reverb. They compressed my intricate acoustic guitar picking into a slick, radio-friendly pop ballad designed for mass consumption. The grocery store cashier hummed along to the chorus. I dropped my basket of apples and walked out the sliding glass doors into the blinding Los Angeles sun. He stood on the Grammy stage that following February, clutching a golden gramophone trophy. I sat on a thrifted plaid sofa in my studio apartment in North Hollywood. The television screen illuminated the dark room. The camera zoomed in on his face. He smoothed the lapels of his custom Tom Ford tuxedo. "I wrote this album in a dark place," Byron said into the microphone. He dedicated the song to his difficult, isolating upbringing in the suburbs. He grew up in a gated community in Calabasas with a massive trust fund and a private chef. He spent his teenage years driving a Range Rover to private tennis lessons. Watching him perform, my pain hollowed my bones. The anger festered in my chest. A physical, leaden weight sat behind my ribs. I avoided the radio. I canceled all my streaming subscriptions. I stopped frequenting the local coffee shops that played top 40 hits. The music industry celebrated Byron as a generational poet. Magazines crowned him a solitary genius speaking for the broken-hearted. I sat in my apartment, watching my bank account drain, trapped by the iron bars of an ironclad non-disclosure agreement. The calendar on my phone glowed in the dark. The 12th of October, 2026. The 5-year term of the NDA expired at exactly midnight. I sat at my desk. The digital clock illuminated the room with red numbers. 11:58 p.m. 11:59 p.m. 12 a.m. The silence ended. Part 2. The Paper Trail of a Fraud. I pulled my encrypted solid-state drive from the fireproof safe hidden under my bed. The brushed metal casing felt heavy and significant in my palms. I plugged the drive into the USB-C port of my MacBook Pro. The screen woke up, casting a cool blue light across my face in the darkened room. I opened the master folder labeled Project Genesis. The complete paper trail of a massive, multi-million-dollar fraud sat waiting in perfectly organized subdirectories. Byron's entire, carefully crafted genius persona rested squarely on my lyrical fingerprints. Critics wrote glowing think pieces praising his use of gritty, working-class metaphors. They lauded the opening verse of the platinum single Rust and Ruin. The narrator in that song describes the exact metallic, suffocating taste of siphoning gas from a rusted Chevrolet on a freezing morning. Byron Rowles drove a matte black Porsche 911. He paid an assistant to pump his premium unleaded fuel. I grew up with a broken-down 1998 Chevy Malibu sinking into the cracked concrete of our driveway. I wrote that specific line after swallowing a mouthful of unleaded gasoline. I needed to get the engine turned over for my double shift at a local diner. The lyrics chronicled the grease under my fingernails and the smell of old fry oil in my hair. The words belonged to the bruised knuckles of my past. I double-clicked on the subfolder containing the original, raw voice memos. The digital timestamps glowed in stark white text against the dark mode background of my file explorer. Ember's Acoustic Draft 1.wave. Date created August 14th, 2020. 2:14 a.m. File size 14.2 megabytes. Byron's official studio sessions for the album commenced in November of that same year. I possess the official studio booking logs from Sound City. I kept the desperate emails from his A&R representative, Clarence Rowles. Clarence operated as Byron's uncle and the primary fixer for Sapphire Records. I opened my archived email client. The messages from Clarence sat in a flagged folder. Date, the 2nd of September 2020. Subject, urgent. Byron needs material. Sabrina. Byron has writer's block. The label needs a soul-crushing ballad by Friday. The deadline is absolute. Send whatever you have. We are prepared to double your advance for the right track. I hoarded the raw data. The hard drive contained proof that every single melody, every complex chord progression, and every gut-wrenching lyric existed on my hard drive 3 full months before Byron ever stepped up to a studio microphone. I possessed the MIDI files, the scratch vocal takes, and the frantic late-night text messages from the production team begging for bridge revisions. I opened a new browser window. I pulled up a high-resolution photograph from the 2022 Songwriter of the Year banquet. Byron stood at the crystal podium, wearing a custom velvet tuxedo. He gripped the heavy glass trophy in both hands. The caption beneath the photo on his official Instagram page read, Byron Rowles breaks down the agonizing, entirely solitary process of writing Aurora Visage. #Lone Wolf, #songwriting. The trophy represented a monument to systematic, corporate-backed creative theft. The entire music industry bowed to a phantom. The executives at Sapphire constructed a modern myth using my sweat and my heartbreak as the foundation. I prepared the explosives to dynamite the entire structure of his career. I organized the files into a single, compressed archive folder. I named the zip file The Architect. Part 3. The Midnight Leak campaign. I opened a secure, encrypted browser routed through a virtual private network based in Switzerland. I navigated directly to a decentralized, blockchain-based file-sharing network. Sapphire Records employed a massive, relentless legal team. Those lawyers scrubbed traditional platforms like YouTube and SoundCloud clean of copyright infringements within minutes of an upload using automated bots. The decentralized nodes of this specific blockchain network made takedowns mathematically impossible. Once the audio files hit the distributed ledger, they lived there permanently. 10,000 anonymous servers globally replicated the data. I selected the raw, unmastered demo file of House of Embers. I added the zip archive containing the emails, the timestamps, and the original lyric sheets written on Riverside High School notebook paper. My index finger hovered over the trackpad. I pressed the upload button. The progress bar filled the center of my screen with a solid, bright green line. The system flashed a confirmation message: "Upload complete, files secured." I clicked the prompt to generate an anonymous, untraceable sharing link. I opened a burner account on X, formerly Twitter. I created the account 10 minutes prior using a masked IP address. I posted the generated link directly to the largest pop culture gossip forum on the platform. I tagged the major music journalists from Rolling Stone, Pitchfork, and Billboard. I typed a simple, direct caption: "The real voice behind Aurora Visage. Check the original file metadata timestamps. The lone wolf is a corporate puppet." I sat back in my desk chair. I watched the engagement metrics. For 10 agonizing minutes, the screen remained static. The view count hovered at 0. The blue glow of the monitor reflected in the window pane. Then, a prominent music theory user with 10,000 followers retweeted the link. The user added an exclamation point and a siren emoji. The view count jumped from 5 to 50. 50 became 500 in the next 60 seconds. 500 skyrocketed to 10,000 within 3 minutes. The jarring contrast between the two versions hit the internet like a physical, destructive shockwave. Users immediately began posting side-by-side audio clips. I refreshed my feed. A popular music producer uploaded a visual waveform comparison. On the left side of their screens, Byron's auto-tuned, overproduced mimicry played. The visualizer showed perfectly flat, mathematically corrected sound waves. The producers had used heavy pitch correction and artificial vibrato to mask his limited vocal range. On the right side, my original, raw demo played. The visualizer spiked and jagged, with human emotion. My voice on the demo recording cracked on the high, sustained notes of the bridge. The sharp, rhythmic sound of my calloused fingers sliding against the cheap steel strings of my acoustic guitar anchored the tempo. The raw, desperate sorrow in my vocal delivery exposed the absolute, undeniable emptiness of Byron's platinum-selling rendition. The internet heard the soul he failed to replicate. The comments flooded my screen in a rapid, continuous scroll. "Who is this girl? Her version just made me sob in my car. Wait, the immutable metadata on this file says August 2020. Byron recorded his vocals in November 2021. He copied her exact vocal inflections and breath patterns. He sounds like an AI generation of a human. Look at these emails from his A&R guy. They literally bought her trauma. The generational geniuses is a complete, manufactured fraud." The hashtag number Byron Rowles exposed hit the #1 spot on the trending column at exactly 2 a.m. By 3 a.m., a new hashtag #WhoIsSabrina, overtook it. Dedicated internet sleuths extracted my name from the buried copyright registry of my early independent EP releases. They matched the acoustic guitar style. They ran vocal matching software. They verified my tone, my vibrato, and my unique phrasing. A prominent YouTuber named Audio Justice started a live stream. I clicked the link. The streamer sat in a neon-lit studio, wearing heavy headphones. He played my demo version of Rust and Ruin for his 40,000 live viewers. He paused the track after the first chorus. He took off his headphones and stared directly into the camera. Byron Rowles stole this woman's entire identity, the streamer said. He wore her poverty like a costume. The proof is right here in the blockchain ledger. The genius persona began to crack, splinter, and completely shatter across the digital landscape in real time. The notification badge on my email icon displayed a rapidly climbing number. Reporters sought comments. Fans demanded more music. The ghost materialized. Part 4. Dismantling the Platinum Legacy. The sun rose over the Los Angeles skyline, casting a hazy orange glow through my apartment window. The digital shockwaves triggered a catastrophic, immediate collapse within the music industry. My phone buzzed continuously on the nightstand. I picked it up. Marcus Geller, a highly respected session producer who worked on Byron's sophomore album, sent me a direct message on Instagram. Marcus wrote, "I saw the leak. You gave me the courage to stop hiding. I'm dropping my session demos today, too." He stole my bass lines on Midnight Drive and claimed he played the instruments himself in all the press tours. 10 minutes later, Olga Lebedeva, a prominent top-line melody writer, posted a 3-minute video on TikTok. She sat in her living room, holding up her own expiring Sapphire Records non-disclosure agreement. She held the document close to the camera lens. The Sapphire logo sat clearly at the top of the page. She pressed play on her laptop. A voice memo filled the audio track of the video. The recording featured Olga singing the exact vocal melody of Byron's biggest stadium club anthem. Byron claimed this melody came to him in a vivid dream while vacationing in Lake Como. Olga said to the camera, "I wrote this in a basement studio in Brooklyn while eating instant ramen. We are taking our music back." The silent collaborators mobilized rapidly. The dam broke, releasing a flood of undeniable evidence. The public realized Byron Rowles operated as a corporate sponge. He absorbed the blood, sweat, and desperate creativity of struggling, working-class musicians. He packaged our trauma behind a handsome face and a massive marketing budget. The financial impact struck Sapphire Records immediately. A mass streaming boycott organized itself organically across every major social media platform. Enraged fans created automated scripts and distributed them via Reddit. These scripts allowed users to permanently block Byron's artist profile on Spotify and Apple Music. I watched a live tracker of his streaming metrics on an industry website. His daily global stream count plummeted from 8 million plays to under 400,000 plays in a 12-hour window. The automated streaming algorithms registered the sudden, massive drop in user engagement. The code responded by actively removing his tracks from all curated, high-traffic editorial playlists. The Today's Top Hits playlist wiped his face from the cover graphic. At 1 p.m., the lucrative corporate partnerships dissolved. Byron held a $10 million global ambassador contract with a Swiss luxury watch brand. The company issued a press release on their official website and pinned it to their social media accounts. The statement read, "We value authenticity, transparency, and true creative integrity above all else. Effective immediately, we are terminating our relationship and all associated campaigns with Byron Rowles." A major acoustic guitar manufacturer followed suit exactly 30 minutes later. They pulled his signature acoustic model from their digital storefronts. They ordered physical retailers to remove the inventory from their sales floors. My phone rang. The caller ID displayed Clarence Rowles' personal cell phone number. I let it ring. The voicemail notification popped onto the screen. I tapped play. "Sabrina, pick up the phone," Clarence pleaded. His voice shook with panic. The smooth, authoritative tone from the conference room 5 years ago vanished entirely. Byron is having a panic attack. The label is bleeding millions. Name your price to take the files down. We will wire $10 million to your account in 20 minutes. Just tell the internet it's a deep fake. I deleted the voicemail. I blocked the number. Byron Rowles transitioned from a global pop icon to a toxic industry pariah before dinner. The illusion burned to the ground. The ashes belonged to me. Part 5. The Rhythm Reclaimed. The legal battle commenced the following morning. Sapphire Records dispatched a formal cease and desist letter to my apartment via private courier. I handed the heavy envelope to my lawyer, Diane. She wore a sharp, tailored navy suit. Diane specialized entirely in the newly updated 2026 digital copyright and creator protection laws. We sat in a sprawling, glass-walled conference room in Century City. The head executives of Sapphire Records sat across the polished granite table from us. Clarence Rowles sat at the edge of the group, rubbing his temples. Byron Rowles skipped the meeting entirely. His publicist released a statement citing exhaustion. The executives looked defeated. Deep purple bags hung under their eyes. Their corporate stock price showed a 12% drop since my midnight upload. The shareholders demanded immediate stabilization. The industry's power dynamic shifted dramatically toward the original writers and the verifiable digital creators over the past 5 years. The new federal legislation recognized, verified, decentralized blockchain timestamps as absolute, legally binding proof of origination. My client holds the irrefutable digital provenance of the entire Aurora Visage album, Diane said. Her voice cut through the silence of the room. She placed my brushed metal hard drive dead center on the granite table. The non-disclosure agreement expired at midnight on October 12th. The public holds the truth. We are filing a federal lawsuit for comprehensive retroactive royalties. More importantly, we demand an immediate, global update to the writer metadata across all streaming platforms. The Sapphire executives stared at the hard drive. The small metal box contained their destruction. They lacked any viable leverage. The fan boycott bled their quarterly financial projections dry. The public demanded the original creator. We can offer a retroactive co-writing credit, the lead executive said. His voice cracked. And a generous royalty bump moving forward. We are past negotiations, Diane stated. You will surrender 100% of the publishing. You will issue a public apology validating Sabrina Beckett as the sole architect of the album. The lead executive looked at Clarence. Clarence nodded slowly. What do you want to settle today? The lead executive asked me directly. Everything, I said. I looked directly into his eyes. I want my name on every single track. I want the masters. I want the silence broken permanently. They capitulated completely within 48 hours. The contracts materialized. The signatures transferred the ownership. The rhythm returned to my absolute control. On Friday morning, I opened the Spotify application on my phone. I searched for the Aurora Visage album. The familiar album art loaded on my screen. I tapped the track details. Beneath the title of every single song, the writing credits showed a massive alteration. Byron Rowles' name vanished entirely. The screen displayed my name in bold, white letters, written by Sabrina Beckett. The victory required one final, definitive stroke. I booked the premiere recording suite at Sound City Studios. I walked into the historic building. Gold records lined the walls. I stood inside the main vocal booth. The vintage Neumann microphone hung suspended in front of my face. The heavy, foam-layered soundproofing isolated me entirely from the outside world. I closed my eyes. I breathed in the sharp, metallic scent of ozone and the warm, comforting smell of the heated vacuum tubes powering the recording console. I plugged my acoustic guitar directly into the pristine analog board. I sang House of Embers. I sang Rust and Ruin. I recorded the definitive, authentic versions of the songs stolen from me 5 years ago. I commanded the control room to keep the production completely stripped down. The mix featured only my intricate acoustic guitar picking and a raw, thumping bass line. I poured the soaring triumph, the fierce vindication, and the release of 5 years of suffocating silence directly into the microphone. I hit the high notes in the bridge with absolute clarity. The rasp in my voice conveyed genuine survival. We titled the new release Aurora Visage, The Architect's Cut. The album dropped globally at midnight. The pre-save numbers shattered platform records. I drove my newly purchased midnight blue Porsche 911 down Sunset Boulevard. The engine hummed with mechanical perfection. I pulled over at the busiest intersection in West Hollywood. I looked up at the massive, illuminated billboard towering over the street. The advertisement displayed a stark, highly contrasted black and white photograph of my face. I held my acoustic guitar. I stared down at the city with unyielding confidence. My name spanned the entire width of the billboard in massive, illuminated block letters. Sabrina Beckett. The Architect's Cut. Out now. The high-end speakers on my dashboard played the crisp opening chords of my acoustic guitar. I rolled the windows down. The cool night air rushed into the cabin. I listened to my own voice echo through the neon-lit streets of Los Angeles, loud, clear, and permanently undeniable. The end.
If you enjoyed this quick escape, hit the subscribe button for new stories twice a week. Until then, I'll see you at the next flip of the pages.